Hey everybody, it's Elizabeth. So I'm just going through what my youngest daughter, sixth grade, is going to do and is doing right now for her history for this year, school year 2024, 2025. We've used this curriculum before with the older kids, so it was a pretty easy decision for me to go ahead and use it again. America the Beautiful, it's great for middle school. A lot of pictures, a lot of reading that has some really interesting stories. Yes, it's a textbook. I know some of us don't love textbooks, and honestly, this is the first really textbook curriculum that I use for history. And there's a couple reasons why I do it. We only use the student workbook, and for the sixth grade, I use the very simple one. There is a harder one for the older kids that I use if the eighth grader is using it. One time I had a sixth and an eighth grader do it together. But for the sixth grader, I just use this, and then I do make them take the test. And the reason why is because I am using this to help them practice reading a nonfiction book, pulling information out of it, processing it, and then showing me that they understand it. And so I'm using it in a very specific way. It is a Christian curriculum. It does require a bit of a financial it's not a cheap curriculum because it's quality. You got cheap, free, I don't know, it's cheap, quality, or time consuming. In this case, it's not time consuming. It's quality, but it's not cheap. So that's kind of where those three things land when I'm looking at curriculum. But I do really like the fact that they include a lot of information, a lot of stories, multicultural. They don't gloss over the mistakes that people make, but they also have heroes and celebrate the heroes in our society, whether it's creating communities or working on how to care about people, as well as just the facts and the information. So before we started this, my daughter likes history, and so she spent the summer reading a bunch of history books for a competition that I'd given her. And so I think she finished about 35 history books, and I'll show you some of them. And so she came in with an understanding of what history is and this time period all the way up through. And then this is the first half, and then there's a second book, the same thickness, book 2, that she'll finish for the second half of the year. So yes, it's heavy, it's big, it's not something you want to carry around all that much, but I really think they did an amazing job. It took me a long time to choose this. And so she came in, this is the Christian focus. So I wanted her to be able to have that foundation of what God is doing, working through, as she is also learning how to we call it spit out the bones. It's learning how to take something and dissect it and see how much of it is true, how much of it is not. And sometimes you have to do that by doing multiple things on the same subject, so that you can go through and figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. This also includes a original sources book, which I do have her read. So at the end of each chapter, they'll have a section where it'll tell her what she needs to read from original sources. And I do like that. It's that Charlotte Mason, the idea of not necessarily twaddle. So it's called We the People, and it'll have actual Grey Eagle and his 5 brothers. So it'll be something from that time. I don't know my phone. There we go. Is focusing on. So they also have a map study, which at this age I don't use, a timeline, which at this age I don't use. And then I don't use the vocabulary or the biblical. And I don't use the literature. So this can actually cover quite a bit. You could use this curriculum and have it be your your Bible, your literature, and your history. We don't use that because we have other things we use for those, but that is that. But we do use some of the books from it that they recommend. Amos Fortune Freeman, she's reading right now. This is one of the books they do recommend for this curriculum. And I washi tape my stuff because I'm always lending it out to people so they know it's mine. Some of the books she read this summer, so you can see they weren't all like huge giant tomes. These are so cool. These are the interactive history adventures, and so it's like the choose your own adventures from when I was a kid, but they're all based on history. And she really liked these. This is the Pearl Harbor one she's already read. So we had a bunch of these, and then she also just read just a variety of stuff from the I Survive series and from a lot of graphic novels that had to do with history. So not all of them big giant books, but all of them helping her understand a little bit more about history and different perspectives, so that she can then decide what is true and what is not. Then I'm reading out loud right now, and we are in the early part of American history. So I'm reading the Charter of Massachusetts Bay Colony to her out loud because this is where some of her ancestors came over. And so I found this at the library. Still a big fan of pulling things from the library. And so that's for our family because, you know, you want to tie in history as much as possible to when you learn about your own ancestors and relatives. And so this is one that we are going through now. And then on top of Amos Freeman, she's also chosen to read the Little House on the Prairie series. And so she just started Little House in the Big Woods. This is the second book. She's looking forward to reading them. She's already started today, and I think she's about 40 or 50 pages into the first book. So that's what we're using. Why don't we do timelines? They are great. We read them, but as far as filling them out, I find them to be very time consuming and not necessarily having things stay in our brains. But I will go ahead and give you a pile of games that we use in order to help figure out different timelines and everything. So anyway, but this is just the basic curriculum. And these books that we read through change every new season and every new subject. So there's a huge pile of those, probably 50 of them that we will choose to go through as we hit each part. But I just keep that bin full of books, and then she herself goes through and picks stuff that fits either in the time period, like the Amos Fortune Freeman, or just something in history that she is curious about at that time. And we also are doing some hands-on homesteading stuff. We've made cheese, we've made candles, we will make soap, we've made jam. We're looking at friends who have chickens and ducks. That's all extra. You know, that's the stuff that she's interested in, so we're doing it, but please don't put that extra pressure on yourself. At the end of the day, you could find a stack of books to read to your child or have your children read. And then go ahead and find a way for you to keep track of it, either having them dictate back to you what they read, write it down, practice. But in this case, I want her to practice taking tests. And that goes along with our philosophy of where we're sending them in the future, because their goal is to go to college for their final 2 years of high school. And so this is a gentle introduction to how to do that. All right, thanks. Hope you have a great day.